Everybody looking after themselves in this heat wave.
It is very, very uncomfortably hot. And they keep moving the day that it breaks. So you go ahead a day and they move the day. And then you go ahead a day and they move the day that it's gonna like go down. So I don't know if there's gonna lead us all the way through August into September with this like 35-degree heat.
It's very challenging in the nursery right now.
Oh yeah, it would be.
Do you use misters?
We have individual drip lines on our outdoor crop. So we have 1 gallon pots that we have in racks that have individual drippers on each one, but they're on black weed cloth. So it gets pretty hot out there, and we have to, of course, some of it gets watered by hand if it's not a full zone or whatever.
Yeah.
Inside the greenhouse, we have misters on some crops, but it varies. It gets, actually, we're managing with the shade to keep it below 35 in the greenhouse generally, but it's just as hot out there in the pot yard, or hotter.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about the black pot thing, because that's what I find. It's the roots are cooking. Why aren't they making white pots?
I know. You know, when we first set up our irrigation, the first round we got, they gave us black poly, of course, but then we had an expansion. We got another, 5,000 pots worth of irrigation, and they said, "Oh, would you like white poly with, black inside to keep the algae from growing and to keep it cooler?" Well, yes. Why didn't you tell us that in the first place? That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I don't know what. I guess black must be a lot cheaper to make or something for the quality of plastic. Just a guess. Yes,
so Amy, it's Anne here. I did check in through, and I was on and didn't come through. So I guess something went wrong. I'm on my iPad now because laptop says Agriculture Development Committee, but nothing's happened. So
No one's there.
no.
Oh, it's good to see you. I was worried.
So now I'm on my iPad. So
I think if you want to get us going, and I think we're good to go. If some more people trickle in, that's okay. When you start.
Okay. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 9:34. And recognize that we are meeting today on the Nuu-chah-nulth territories. And also announce that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. Do we have any new people around the board table today, Amy, that we should reintroduce ourselves?
I don't know if everyone has met Kristen. Kristen, you want to give a little wave? She's our admin person who's helping out with minutes, so that I don't have to be typing at the same time I'm talking, because I'm not very good at that.
Okay.
And Heather, as well, our manager of administrative services, is joining us for a discussion on the terms of reference.
Okay.
And other than that, I think everybody knows everybody.
Knows each other. Yeah, we've gone around the table so many times. I think we do know each other. So.
And Anne knows everybody, so it's hard for her to know when people know each other.
Yeah. I'd like to call for, is there any additions to the agenda? Hearing no addition.
One brief update, One brief update from the provincial chief vet.
Can we just, add it to reports?
Sure.
Okay.
Somewhere fairly early on, I hope.
Okay, let's just do it before a staff report then, okay?
What time do you have to leave, Tom?
Probably 10:30.
10:30, okay.
Is that gonna work?
That should leave us enough time, shouldn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I need to call for approval of the agenda, please. Anybody?
Sure, I'll motion.
Thank you, Helen. Seconder?
Fred has
Somebody
his
put
hand
their-
up.
Did somebody put their hand up or I just missed it?
I'm trying to wiggle my hand for you. Forgive me.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Okay. Nobody's opposed. The motion will be carried. The minutes of the July 18th, 2023 meeting of the Agriculture Development Committee. Was there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a motion that the Agriculture Development Committee meeting held on July 18th be received.
I'll make a motion.
Helen, seconder. Anna?
Yeah.
There's no objection, it'll be approved. Correspondence. Investment Agriculture Foundation, there was information sent out on that. On the environmental farm plan program guide plus beneficial management practices program guide. Do we need to have any discussion on this?
This is included, just, it's more of a producer level funding. So I wanted
Yes.
to make sure that it was included here. If you have networks of people that you can send things out to that might be interested in this, in order to access, there's quite a bit of money designated by the government for the beneficial management practices program, but in order to access it, you do need an environmental farm plan. So it might, if any producers are looking at doing, if they see anything in the BMP guide that interests them, this might be a good opportunity for them to apply for and get an environmental farm plan to get the process going, because then they can apply for that other funding. So
The next piece of correspondence is the Alberni Kaikwat Regional District Systems Change Project. Everybody reviewed that.
I think Heather wanted to do a little bit of a talk on that and
Talk
just
on
go
that,
over some
okay.
salient points.
Okay, Heather?
Well, want to and will is two different things, but I did make some notes. This is such a big project for the regional district. So I think it's really important to kind of share a bit about what we've heard. And there is, resources going to this project as well. And also, I just want to start by just letting people know it does look like I'm going to be continuing on contract to some degree with the regional district. So we're just still working that out. But one of the things that I will be helping with is finishing up the final year of the systems change project and then helping in some other spots as well. So just so people know, you're welcome to continue to contact me just as in the past. And if it's something that I won't be able to help with, I'll just pass that along. And I just wanted to briefly overview this project, just in case people aren't familiar. It's so broad, so just to simplify it. Basically, this came about in part because as we were working to support agriculture within the region, we were still finding that there are these barriers and challenges from higher levels that we weren't able to kind of work through. So we were trying to support, but there were things that were still stopping us. So this systems change test grant is meant to kind of test some different actions that we can take in order to have more influence in those policy and programs that are happening at other levels. So we work both within the region, providing core funding and mentorship to organizations and continuing to support these development of local networks. And then we were working across the province to reach out to other organizations who were working also at a regional level to see where we could develop some shared voice and create, kind of more capacity, more power, more influence collaboratively. So some of the key things we found over this project, this is the second 2 full years now, we're coming into our 3rd year. And first of all, across the province, so many people are having similar challenges. And it's not only with organizations working to support smaller scale agriculture, it's with larger industries, it's different production scales, different products. There's so many similarities. There's definitely interest in collaboration. So the groups that we've been working with across the province are really keen to continue to have these conversations. And there's more collaboration happening, I think, because of them. And then just noting, like, systems change is this big, broad concept, and like, what is the system? We're talking about how agriculture is supported within the province generally. And the system really is changing regardless of what we're doing. And those changes are happening just because of these huge influences, things like climate change, things like problems within the agricultural industry that are just so well known that it's not really working as it is. For example, there's fewer and fewer producers every year. Numbers of farm properties are lowering. Farmers are aging. There's not good succession. So there's all kinds of challenges that people know about within the industry. And so with this project, we're not like changing the system by ourselves. Like, we don't have that much power, but what part of what we are doing is really continuing to call out some of these challenges and suggesting opportunities and kind of like putting more wood under the fire to get things happening differently, so that particularly our region, but also all regions across the province have kind of more influence. It's such a diverse province. And one of the things we hear is that a lot of the policy and programs have been geared towards larger scale, kind of like the idea of the Fraser Valley producers. And those are, there's a lot of other communities around the province that don't feel like they have as good support. So some of the outcomes that I've seen, and particularly in this second year, personally, I've noticed a lot more engagement from the Ministry of Agriculture. I know I've had kind of really detailed and more intimate conversations and discussions about policy and programs, things like that. I know Tom has been very active, also Angela. I actually counted, because this is, you get like this quantitative data to like back up your stuff. So I think Tom has sent about 30 emails in the last year talking about different programs and opportunities and asking for our input. Like, that's just never happened before. So thanks, Tom. We've also seen more farm visits so the provincial staff coming into the area to kind of connect one-on-one. There's more connections across agriculture and health ministries. And that's something we've talked about a lot, is that at the region, the health kind of influences are just as important, or the things we do are often coming through health even. And so health and agriculture connecting more widely is really important. So there's now like a cross-ministerial committee on food security. You hear the Ministry of Agriculture talking a lot more about food security in their discussions as well. I think there's more accommodations for different types of agriculture, in particular Indigenous food systems and food sovereignty. There's a lot of work from the Ministry of Agriculture coming out about that. I think there still needs to be more work done on like supporting seafoods and marine, like, which is very complex and really hard to like carry all this stuff within one umbrella of agriculture and food. And then also I will note that there's, in what I've seen and heard, there's still a lot of hesitation and even opposition towards supporting small scale agriculture from the Ministry of Agriculture. So that's really a challenge, especially for in regions like this, where a lot of the producers are very small scale. So there's something that still needs work and some kind of development of narratives and rationale and pressure to get some tangible supports for smaller scale producers. Couple other things, honoraria. So part of our funding, we're distributing honoraria for producers to attend these meetings. That's been coming up more at higher levels as well. Tom recently told me about there is some regional extension groups that have been formed across the province, and the participants are actually receiving honoraria to attend those meetings, which had never happened before. So I think that's a really important way to increase equity and value for those producers' inputs. And also grant writing and grant processes, which we all know and love very well, and they're extremely challenging, takes a lot of time and energy, and there's beginning to become some recognition that these processes need to be streamlined in order to increase access to them. And that I've seen definitely in the Indigenous grants. There's one that came up recently, and the application criteria is very, very limited. So really easy applications, and I'm hoping things like that will be more available to everyone as well. And then I think that even locally, the networks are working, like people are working together more. I hear about conversations where different organizations are meeting up for a phone call or a Zoom to talk about this idea they have and how they could work together. So that's just one more thing that we like really want to encourage and see more happening. And then the challenges as well, and something that's happening locally, which you all know about, is the ACRD bylaws and the zoning bylaws. And I think these systemic challenges, they're happening at the like higher levels in the province in terms of like, how do we regulate and support everybody, but at the same time encourage production and not create barriers. And so we're seeing those same things at the regional district level in development in these bylaws. And we're seeing the regional district, I think, working to like work through this. Like, how do we do this? Continuing to have those conversations, looking for solutions to make these things easier and palatable and effective in actually increasing production, but also like, you know, kind of working within the system that exists and, you know, the role of governments as it's been. So it's not that these things are easy, but the recognition of these challenges is happening. And I think there's been some work to explore different ways of doing them locally as well. So this last year of the project, part of it, because of it's a test project. So in the last year, we're actually going to stand back a little bit. So we've actioned some things. We've got some groups happening that we're going to kind of maintain, but also want to see what happens when we step back. Like, do the changes stick? Are they sustainable? What's the minimum we kind of need to keep these things going? And then I still want to do some work bringing farmers institutes together across the province. I think that's a really important piece in terms of regionalizing and regional viewpoints of producers. We're still going to continue to meet with the other regional organizations across the province. And then kind of a tangible outcome that we want from this last year is to sort of bring together a database of resources that could be supportive for people working to support agriculture at a regional level. And I think it's interesting that Amy has just stepped into this position with the regional district. And Amy, like, we'll talk about this more, but we could use you as like this example of like, okay, what things does Amy need to know in order to support agriculture here? And so that could be even briefings about what do you need to know about the ALC or about farm tax regulations? What do you need to know about our local organizations? So creating this kind of template or some resources that anyone across the province who wants to support agriculture at a regional level can kind of access and look at. And then lastly, like, how do we keep this going? So I would love to find a way to keep providing core funding to our local organizations and to keep providing honoraria to the producers and people who step up to contribute. So we'll see where that goes. And that's all. That's kind of the overview, but I'd love to hear from anybody if they have questions about it. And also just feedback about like, if what I'm sharing rings true for you. Are you seeing similar changes? Or what are some gaps that we're missing? I see Fred.
My hand looks really weird with his background. So from the regional district director side, there's a lot of push from multiple areas to get different zoning bylaws that are specific to each area to recognize what is different. So for example, what we have in Beaufort is quite a bit different than Sproat Lake. There are some large farms there, but the majority of the places, people have vacation homes, and next month they're all moving back to wherever they live, and half of them will be empty. So the rules there are quite a bit, should be different, and we're looking at that's what we're going to be doing. So I'd like some feedback from the agricultural community on what we would like to see less of regulations. So I don't think more regulations is what anybody wants, and works towards making our lives easier. So whatever suggestions people have, please bring them forward and let me know. Email me or phone me or whatever you guys want to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks.
I'm not sure if I saw Ann Siddell first, and I also
No,
saw
no,
Anna.
I'm fine. I didn't have my hand up. That's fine.
Okay, then I saw Tanya and then Tom.
Thanks. I think just on Fred's comment there, I think what first comes to mind is, I mean, because I know the regional district's been working on this bylaw for quite a while, and this committee has put input in a number of times, and we've had a lot of meetings over the years. And I know, I feel like when we talk about chickens and roosters, I think there's still a little bit of work to do. But if the areas are if they're gonna kind of look at each electoral area semi-individually, if there's a way to start getting some things passed instead of waiting for the whole package to go through, like get everything done and then go, like if we're like, hey, we're happy with the majority of how the agriculture stuff works, like, hey, let's push this through, this block's done, and just get some things done, because a lot of the things that have gone through on the agriculture end have actually been loosened up compared to what they were. So we're more in line with the ALC and provincial regulations. And I think that could just be beneficial to a lot of any producers in the valley to get that done, kind of thing. Would be my input on that.
Thanks, Tanya. It's kind of like, and that's sort of like a system changing thing. It's like, how do we do things differently? Or what can we shuffle around? Fred, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think Tanya's got a great point. This has been going on for years and years, and now we're actually starting to get some proper public engagement and feedback from the people and actually talking to them outside of recorded public hearings. But what I'm saying is, we've already changed the chickens and roosters and any poultry for Beaver Creek and Beaufort. That is quite a bit less restrictive. Basically, you can have as many as you want, anything over 0.6 of an acre. Be a good neighbor. Don't put your roosters next to your neighbor's bedroom, right? Or else you might make up with the bill a bit less roosters. And the BC Animal Welfare Act still applies. So you can't have 10,000 chickens in a greenhouse. That's animal cruelty. Okay, so that's already been done. That's been in place for 3-4 months now. But that's only Beaufort and Beaver Creek, because Cherry Creek wasn't involved with that. And maybe they want in the future, maybe not. But that's where we're starting to have some separation in the bylaws. Things like that can be changed fast, but there's lots more things that should be coming up as well. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Tom?
Perhaps it's old news, but the ministry does have land use planning staff available to consult with regional districts on bylaws. And if you want me to loop you in with some of those folks, I'll be happy to do so. Maybe you already engaged them. I don't know. I'm not totally up to speed on your process there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the engagement process has been going on for a long time, has been alluded before. And like Tanya said, we've engaged with the producers multiple times and the ADC multiple times, and land use planning people at the both the ALC and the province multiple times. So we're heading into another round of engagement here in the fall.
Good. So Reed Bailey has been involved with some of this work.
Yeah, we sat in on a session with Reed and ALC staff here just a couple months ago regarding things about the Agricultural Land Commission land use planning and things like that from the provincial perspective.
Very good.
Thanks. Pat?
I'm very interested, and I really appreciate the explanation for of the systems change project and the challenges that you are wanting to address. I just wanted to share a bit of an analogy. 3 ocean communities, Port Alberni, Rimouski in Quebec, and Yarmouth in Nova Scotia, got together with the Ocean Startup Project and issued an Ocean Communities Climate Change Challenge. And we identified 16 problems that we knew were affecting the health of the oceans, and launched a challenge. And we got about 40 responses to the challenges across the country, and then 17 of those 40 followed up with videos and interviews of potential users to their solutions. And from among that group, 4 were selected for a small cash prize. So 3 of them got $7,000 and 1 of them got $1,500. And they had some very, very interesting responses to challenges that we were experiencing in the ocean environment. And I'm thinking, okay, so if the systems change group were to list the challenges, could we get somebody like Foresight? Have you worked with them at all?
No.
Okay, so Foresight is a company that, or an organization that is committed to net zero, and they're working in a whole bunch of ecosystems, including ag tech. And their key focus areas are mitigation, improved water management, adaptation, reduced inputs in GHG emissions, regenerative practices, and food security. And Foresight have been talking to us about a follow-on challenge to the one that we took part in with the ocean communities. And I'm wondering if it might be an idea to connect you and a few of the others involved in the systems change project to see if they would fund a challenge or a set of challenges that you might be looking for solutions to. And the second thing I take note out of your presentation about systems change is that we have a community-based advisor funded by the Island Coastal Economic Trust. We've actually got 2 people working on a part-time basis, and one of the deliverables that we committed to in securing the funding was that they would take part in writing 4 grant applications. So I put that out as an offer as well. that if there is a grant opportunity that comes up that the Ag Development Committee would like to pursue, then we'd be happy to take a look at our capacity at that time to see if we could help out. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat. That's amazing. And it's always so great to get support from elsewhere and other people looking forward, because that's really what we're looking at, is where do we go from here as we wrap this up, and how do we move to the next level? So yeah, I'm really interested in both of those, and yeah, just share whatever information, and I'll look more into Foresight as well. I'm kind of curious to try and think of an example of what they might fund with in terms of that setting, the set of challenges, like what are they looking for? And I'm thinking that that's like they fund a solution, like the work on towards a solution for one of those challenges. But yeah, I'd love to talk more. So thank you.
I will find out who is the lead, because they have leads in each of the ecosystems that we're working with. And I'm working with 2 people in their water ecosystem, but I'll find out who the lead is in the ag system and connect you.
Great. Thank you. And I love that Amy is here. We have a staff ACRD person now, so this is fantastic. We can spread the load, and Amy can track all of these things as well. Are there any more thoughts or questions for around the systems change report and project? Helen?
I just wanted to say how I I think the report's great, really concise. It helped me understand a lot of what you guys are doing. And from a non-agricultural growing kind of perspective, a community, I think you have done a really good job increasing your media presence, getting into the communities, making us understand the whole food sovereignty and the importance of agriculture locally and everything. And yeah, so I just say kudos to you and the whole team for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a team thing, and everyone, here and in all of these other, work in the community is part of it. So, and yeah, more PR is even better, like more, down on the ground with just residents and everybody too.
You're right. The more we support you, the more you can get the government to do, help you with these changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Let's move on to the last piece of correspondence was Ministry of Agriculture and Foods provincial supports for producers facing drought. That was on page 72 to 74. Amy, I think that was just for information purposes, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was just for information in case someone hadn't seen the news release that came out, and the supports, they've kind of consolidated them all into a nice concise list, because there is some agri-stability money that is available for people. I know that some people are having trouble sourcing hay. I've seen some posts on Facebook about people downsizing herds because of things. And so I just wanted to make sure that was included again, if people wanted to forward it on to anyone that they might know of that requires that information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we just need a quick motion to approve the correspondence A to C as received for information purposes. Sorry, I'm on. Thanks, Helen. I just have a hard time seeing people putting their hands up on my iPad. So, seconder.
Okay.
Thank you. You'll be my eyes. So moving on to requests for decisions, request for decision on the food security emergency planning preparedness funding opportunity. Who was speaking on this one today?
That would be moi speaking on that.
Okay.
So this is a fund that has not launched yet. I'm trying to get my ducks in a row because it was announced by the province as coming in August of 2023 with no exact date attached. So I wanted to make sure it's an important fund, and I wanted to make sure that the ADC had a chance to get eyes on it and the board as well before it launched, and I risked missing the intake. So that's why I'm bringing it to you now. So if you wanted to see kind of a high level overview of the fund, as much information as has been released, if you just click on the words request for decision after the letter A there, it actually jumps you in the agenda down to where it is. I'm sorry that it's sideways, because that's how it fits in the, so they took the landscape ones and they turned them portrait so that they fit in the agenda. So I do apologize for that. But the information is there if you're interested in delving more into it. But basically, this was a good opportunity to look at food security, and particularly from an agricultural perspective, because this fund is being put forward by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food from an emergency planning perspective. So I spoke with our manager of protective services, who's in charge of emergency management in the EOC here at the ACRD. Her name is Karen. And basically, this is something that hasn't really been delved into yet, but it's one of those things that has really taken a step forward as things like wildfires, highway closures, ongoing supply chain disruptions and things like that have been kind of advancing into people's worldview. Things that we didn't really think about. Supply chains were secure 5 years ago. I mean, food security was a concern, but not with the immediate urgency that it is now, when literally people are very aware of the fact in Port Alberni and surrounding areas, you've got one paved road in and out. That paved road goes down. It doesn't take long for supply chains to be disrupted. So the reason I wanted to bring it forward, though, is it's going to be from a regional perspective. The ACRD is a regional district. It's not just the Alberni Valley. It's not just the West Coast. It's made up of everybody who lives within the ACRD boundaries. And so from a regional perspective, things like food security and agriculture, like Heather had been alluding to, agriculture is more broad than sometimes we give it credit for. So I really wanted to present a grant application from a regional perspective, and that includes everyone having a seat at the table if they want it. So everyone from First Nations on the West Coast, what does agricultural resiliency look like to you? What happens to your communities when the road shut down? You know, what happens in Tofino and Ucluelet? They're members of, they have a seat at the board for the ACRD. So what happens to them when the highway shut down? What initiatives are happening all over the place that we just don't know about because people just don't know to talk to each other on that level, or we haven't started that conversation yet. Maybe there's amazing initiatives going on that need to be, brought together under one kind of regional food security, agricultural resiliency sort of umbrella, so that we have a catalog. Like Heather was saying, where's that database of, well, here's who you talk to about this, and did you know about this person, and they know a lot about that, and they're doing amazing things over here in this community. They're focused on seafood, and they're focused on traditional gathering grounds and foraging grounds and things like that, and it's amazing work that's being done. But from a regional perspective, it's really difficult to get an idea of everything that's going on because everybody's busy and we do all live far apart. And so I wanted to place this possibility before the Agricultural Development Committee from an emergency planning perspective to see if we could get support for applying for that fund to do more of a regional look. And it also includes, particularly from an agricultural perspective, a lot of people are trying to secure their food now on a small scale, and kudos to them. They're doing things like getting backyard hens. They're growing things they've never grown before, or growing anything. Like there's people that are pharmacists that have never grown a vegetable, and all of a sudden they have a vegetable garden just to try and secure their food. But what they may not take into account is that supply chain disruptions affect that food security as well, because how much chicken feed do you have on hand? If a supply chain goes down and they can't ship livestock feed into this valley, how long do our livestock stocks last? How long do those animals stay healthy? How much feed is available locally? It's all interconnected, and I don't want to see, you know, something happened more dire down the line and we had a chance at the funding and didn't take a chance at applying for the grant. So anyway, if anyone has any questions, I am open to questions. Heather?
Thanks. I just wanted to add, so this is a $150,000 grant and it's 100% funded.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that there is a follow-up kind of stage 2, or apparently, because like Amy said, it hasn't been released. So that would be the next stage. You could actually apply to get the money to implement these things. So I think it's an amazing opportunity, really timely.
Yeah, so sorry, I neglected to say that. We would be applying to the first stage, which is what resources exist, what needs exist, what opportunities are there, the overarching study that would come with recommendations for things like infrastructure that's needed to help, or training that's needed, or things like that. And then there is, again, it hasn't been formally announced, but they did indicate there's going to be a stream 2, and that's the money to actually install infrastructure, get the training, do all the things that the study indicates should be done. So. Tom?
Do you have capacity to do that phase 1, or are you gonna looking to hire a contractor?
It'll definitely be consultant driven. I don't have capacity to write these reports myself because I will have multiple contracts going on at the same time. So this will be, if it's supported through the ADC and then additionally supported through the board, then I'll be putting out an RFQ or an RFP. I'm not a finance person, so RFP versus RFQ always gets me. It'll be one or the other. But I'll be their point person. That's my role. So I'll be the one, if there's engagement to be done, probably if it goes through, I'll be pushing for engagement with the ADC. So you'll see that consultant come back to a future ADC meeting, and they'll be meeting with us regarding the information that they need for this report.
Any more questions for Amy on this?
Oh, Anna, I see Anna waving.
I would like to make a motion that the ADC puts forward a recommendation to the board of directors that an application is put together to pursue this funding. Can't remember the actual name. I looked at the grant and it looks really good. The timing is absolutely impeccable for the West Coast and for Port Alberni, with all the closures we had on the West Coast for 3 years. And now what we're dealing with right now. So I think now's the time.
Totally agree. Is there a seconder for this motion?
Tanya.
I'll second Dan.
Thank you, Tanya. If no one is opposed, it'll be carried. Next up is a request for decision on the ADC terms of reference update. It's on page 85 to 90. If everybody had a chance to look at it. Do we
So
need some conversation?
Oh, sorry.
We need some conversation on this.
I just wanted to let everyone know we included the original, this was my mistake. So included the original ADC terms of reference in the last agenda, and you'll see an updated version in this agenda. What I neglected to do, I'm sorry, was bridge the gap with the track changes version. So if you do see anything in here, I do have Heather Zenner here as our Manager of Administrative Services to speak to kind of some of the changes that were made. She knows the procedures bylaw a lot better than I do. So I pass it over to Heather to speak on some salient points of the ADC terms of reference update.
Thanks, Amy. And thanks everyone for having me again. Like Amy mentioned, we presented the idea of updating the terms of reference at the last meeting in July. There's just a few references that were a bit outdated, and we do want to ensure that this committee complies with our ACRD procedures bylaw that sets how we carry out all of our board and committee meetings. So we made some changes. We removed the reference to the agriculture support workers now that we are, Amy is hired to do this committee herself. We also made some changes to reflect that this is not just an Alberni Valley committee. We did include some reference to the coastal addendum to the agriculture plan. We also included some language on food production and food security because those weren't addressed in the old terms of reference. We made some minor changes to the membership list. And then we changed the appointment term from 2 years to a term that as long as you're still with, you know, for Helen, as long as you're still with the school district, you're the representative. And Helen, as long as you're with Island Health, you remain that representative until you no longer want to be a representative. Yeah, and then we just, really just a lot of changes to do with the agriculture support workers, changing that to staff references. And so if the committee supports the new one that's attached to today's agenda, then we will take it further to the board next week for their adoption, and then it gets reviewed periodically to incorporate any changes that are needed. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if anybody has any input that they'd like to see any changes made, I'd be happy to do that.
No questions?
I have a question.
Helen?
I was just reading maybe I haven't read it very well. It talks about the chair being elected. There's no time, like, is it a new chair being elected every January, or is it, I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it's done for all of our board and committees. So yeah, there'll be an election coming in January.
Thank you.
Any other
It's
questions?
so nice to have this done by staff.
Yeah.
Anna and I try and do this stuff, but we're not staff. Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Amy.
That was a great musical segue. Thank you.
Okay, so we just need a motion to take this forward, please. That the Agriculture Development Committee recommends to the ACRD Board of Directors to adopt the ADC terms of reference as updated.
Yeah. All motion.
Thanks, Helen. Seconder.
See Fred waving his hand.
I will second.
Thanks. Nobody's opposed. It'll be approved. Reports. Tom, we're going to let you speak first because you have to leave.
Thank you. It's just a brief informational correspondence. I'll be forwarding this, but I thought since we were having a meeting today, I would just read this. Drought, water quality, and livestock health. The provincial chief vet has circulated this information bulletin, and it's important to just note to producers that drought and high temperatures can cause water quality problems in livestock water sources, which include high concentrates of minerals, potential blue-green algae outbreaks, and potential for more pathogens just because as water evaporates, you get more concentration of these things. In any case, I'll be sharing this with Amy and she can pass it off as need be, but I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. I'll also send a link for the drought resource portal, which the ministry has put together, a one-stop location to find all the links around drought support for ag producers.
Thank you, Tom.
And apologies, I need to sign off and get on to the next meeting, but
Yeah.
glad to be here when I can. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, let's move on to ACRD staff reports. Amy? Up to you.
Awesome. So I'm now 2 months in the position of sustainability planner for the ACRD, and it's certainly been a wonderful whirlwind of learning a whole bunch of new stuff while simultaneously continuing to do my old job because they haven't been able to hire anyone to that job yet. So it's been definitely interesting. So one of the things that's coming out of the fact that I'm kind of doing double duty here is that I spoke with Anne, who's the chairperson, about not having a September ADC meeting. It's kind of harvest time for everyone, and producers are often busy anyway. And so she was amenable to not having a September one and starting back up again in October. We did run through the summer, which a lot of committees don't. A lot of committees do take some time off in the summer, and we ran through. So it's just I'm trying to take, you know, a little bit of vacation. I've got family in town and stuff, and just having to do everything all at once. I was like, it's something's got to give. So if everyone's okay with just taking a break in September, that'll help me catch up on some things, and then we can reconvene in October. I don't know if you need a motion for that, Anne, or if everyone just has to kind of.
No, I think we're just, we're in agreement unless
Okay.
everybody's really opposed to it. So.
Is everyone, oh, Tanya.
Thanks.
Okay.
I have a question. If we're not doing September meeting, can I add to this meeting a little blurb about Rivers Day then? Because Amy, I believe you're going to attend on behalf of the ACRD, or is it Anna coming?
I was going to come. Is Anna, are you coming as well?
Yeah, but as waste reduction education.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to put that, Tanya, into your
Producer
report.
update?
Yeah, your producer update, then
Sure.
that'd be perfect.
Okay. Otherwise, I don't have a problem skipping September.
Yeah, and I would just say I've made a schedule for the fall fair for the ag building and stuff, and I will be sending that out to this committee as well as to the Alberni Valley Food Security Committee, because typically September is very busy, or has been, with Family Farm Day as well as the fall fair. So I will be naggy haggy trying to get volunteers for both events, and I'm including this committee in my, So that's it though. Great. Take some time, be with your family.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you very much. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring back is there was a recommendation that the ADC did to apply for a grant for the Ag Water Infrastructure Fund that was taken forward to the board. They also supported it. And the intake was the intake is today. And so we actually made that grant application last week. So the grant has been submitted for that feasibility study for kind of an Alberni Valley irrigation options around that Stamford River water license and other options and things like that. So that has been submitted, and we'll await the decision of the IAF on that. And then once if I do get support of the board, once the food security fund is announced, then I'll bring back their decision as well and the intake for that.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question regarding the Water Council. When is that going to be reconvening?
That's planned for October, November in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I wonder if we could just send out an email to folks. I think the last kind of message we sent out around that was back in June, probably just noting that something would be coming, but it might be worth just even a simple email to advise that.
Okay. Sounds good. Was there a traditional date and time, kind of like the ADC, where you held it every, third Tuesday of every second month on?
No, there was 8 meetings that occurred over 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Actually, and then an extra one that was held at my home.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was kind of not the promise, but it was very much alluded to that Mosaic was going to come out and do a walkabout. And I mean, it's been, I think, fine with the road closures and everything. But I think that is an expectation by most producers that were in attendance. But I think that's a better fall thing.
Yeah.
As well. When there's actually some water to see, maybe.
Yep, I can add that to my list.
Okay. Pat, do you have anything to report for the city of Port Alberni?
Madam Chair, no, nothing direct. Two comments, though. One is that with respect to getting the word out about the work of the Ag Development Committee and the challenges that the ag sector is facing in the community, there is a new media platform called Scoop. It's Nancy Wilmot from Shaw has moved to establish this with the intention of doing some very positive reporting on events in Port Alberni or the community. So I think that might be a very good connection for the Systems Change Project and the Ag Development Committee's work generally. And the other is if you need a letter of support for your work on the Food Security Emergency Planning and Preparedness Fund, I'd be happy to draft one for the signature of others in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Farmers Institute. Lisa?
Lisa's not here, but I can speak for the Farmers Institute, and that's basically that this time of year, not a lot happens. We don't meet in the summertime. We did have a small meeting that was sponsored by the Grassroots Cafe. We also had them, they gave us a nice donation to the Farmers Institute, as they are really wanting to see the Farmers Institute have kind of like corporate sponsorship. So we've got someone that's going to kind of work on now what that might look like, everything from realtors to restaurants. They want to do a repeat of the kind of the speed dating farmer, restaurant, producer, caterers event that I facilitated last year with the doc and definitely with Brianna from Community Futures. So looking at doing a redo of that at some point in time, either in the fall or potentially at the CD Saturday event next February. And yeah, things are putzing along. Yes, we did have one beef producer shipped out his herd last week, but it was not for any reason other than he's like, I'm 65 years old and I've been doing this since I was 13. I want a break. And yeah, so it'll be a weird day at the family farm. No cows. Woo, boo-hoo. But I'm excited for my uncle. And yeah, and we'll be at the fall fair in the ag building. We've got all the kind of pictures to put up, and yeah, need to iron out a few things in terms of the display and how much available wall space there is, but I will deal with that with Anne really soon. So, but that's it for the Farmers Institute.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, so as Anna alluded to, my report, it'll just say that the ag displays are coming together. I will be meeting with the Farmers Institute to go over the layout, and the cabin at Shannon's farm has agreed to put in an agritourism display, and the invitation is out to Arravale to do the same. And AV Food Security will have a display and informational table. So I think along with our fruits and vegetables and other home cooking items, it'll be a full building. I'm excited that the outside of the building is going to be a family zone. So there'll be a lot of families around taking part in games and other activities that we're bringing in a professional to oversee. There'll be some entertainment out there as well. So that really will draw people to that building. So any questions for me?
It's
Yep.
Heather. Is the grocery game going to go again, Anne?
No,
No.
it's not going to go. We've had our junior board run that game before, and to tell you the truth, most of the displays are getting to be in pretty rough shape. So we've decided not to run that game. Junior board is going to be busy with in the family zone assisting the people running that. So.
Are you
Okay.
going to have a stage outside that building again too? Are you having
Yeah.
a community music stage? Good.
Yes, yeah. So we've got a little bit of music happening. We have a magician out there, and then we have the family zone itself with games and other activities. So it'll be a busy place around that area. So which is good. It draws people into the building. So
Yeah. That's
Okay.
awesome.
yeah. Let's move on to School District 70. Helen, do you have anything to report?
We're just starting to ramp up at the school board, or trustees are anyways. So if there's anything you ever need from the district or any questions or anything, as usual, I will do my best to forward those and pass on information. And personally, I heard you guys asking for volunteers, I think Anna and the fall fair. If you guys need anyone, you've got my contact. I'm happy to help if I'm available. Looking forward to another great year.
Great. Helene, for Island Health, do you have anything to update us with?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. So locally, Emily Dunbar with Healthy Schools and myself have been supporting some food skill events for the youth summer camps with Parks and Rec. And we're doing 3 events this summer with 100 kids each. It's just been fabulous. And our third event, the last one, is this Thursday. So we're looking forward to it. We've been doing also some hydration stations and health information booths for the summer pop-up play at some various parks during the summer. And I wanted to just let you know that our public health Healthy Communities program, we participate with other health authorities and the ministry. We're working right now on a provincial work plan to address food security, nutritional health, and well-being. And 3 priorities have been established. So Indigenous food sovereignty, sustainable and resilient community food systems, and the third one is impact of food and nutrition on chronic disease. So those are the three priorities, and we're working on action items as the months go. So I'll share when the work plan is done. I'll share it with you all. Yeah, Amy?
I was just wondering if that is a collaborative with like the Ministry of Agriculture, or the 2 ministries working together on that?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. It's always been health authorities working with the Ministry of Health. We've never had the other ministry, like it's always been a bit of an issue, I think. Historically, it's just those 2 ministries don't seem to be working together, not involving us. So they might be, and I don't know. But this work plan is new because we've kind of had some healthy eating, food security strategies in the past, and it's ran out. So it was really due to be looked at again. So it's good that it's underway. Yeah.
Sounds really good. Interesting.
Yeah. I'll share what comes out of it. And Jen?
Nice to see everybody. Sorry I was a little late. Len, I just thought I would share that, I had a conversation with Sheila Malcolmson, who is the Minister for Poverty Reduction something. anyway, I know that that conversation is happening in the different ministries around that whole piece. And part of her portfolio actually does include food security and as a part of the poverty reduction piece. I don't know like where that fits with the process that you're connected to, but I do know that in that conversation, she more than just like the politician, like, yes, whatever you say stuff. I think that there is some openness and understanding around seeing like how the different ministries can work together. And Sheila might be like interesting conversation to have to see where there might be opportunity there. Yeah. And I know that like one of the conversations that I had with her, but also with the BC Farmers Market Nutrition Coupon Program is also ways to help support some of the rural and remote communities and being able to access something like Good Food Box program when they're not necessarily connected to farmers market because of the size of the community and the community not having that infrastructure in place or the access to those types of, to a market that would support something like a farmers market. Just thought I would make that comment.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to hear. That's all for me.
Thanks, Helene.
I
Anna?
have an idea.
Oh, sorry.
Bring all the ministers together here in the Alberni Valley or something and get this conversation going at that regional perspective. There's a whole, that's like totally ties in with the systems change. It's one of the things we're trying to do. It might be interesting if as we start to build connections personally, then we can kind of try and draw our connections in together. So anyways, little bug in
You could
my
invite the Ministry of Transportation, ask them to take the detour route to get here.
yeah, kettle of fish, ball of worms, whatever it is.
Okay. Anna, you have something else to add to your Alberni Valley Food Security Society report?
Not much. So Fall Fair, I'll send out that, I'll send it out as a Google Doc so people can just add to it simultaneously and I don't need to. And I've got it broken down into 2 or 2.5 hour shifts. Please feel free to sign up for more than one shift because that would be great. And then Amy, I'll have to have a conversation with you around what you want from the ACRD to be in that building. Family Farm Day. Everything's in final stages. I'll be approving everything today. And then I know like our social media stuff starts on the 17th. Every 2 days, a different farm site will be profiled. Posters, well, the brochure will be online, which means we can get the posters out by the end of the week. And yeah, everything's pretty much good to go. I visited the couple sites that I hadn't, like the urban sites, because, you know, when people say they want to participate, but I haven't been there, I'm very hesitant to be like, oh yeah, sure, sounds great. So I've checked all the sites and it'll be great. So we've got 12 in total, and that includes the Doc Plus. We'll be participating again as well this year. Gleanings humming along. In the past like 4 days, everybody suddenly, all homeowners want their fruit trees picked, which is not possible if you don't connect prior to. But yeah, I think I just got the gleaning update from my summer students. So they've done 14 picks so far. Looks like 2,200 pounds of fruit thus far. And yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what happens in September when I have no summer student anymore and Carly's back to work. So, because that's when a lot of the stuff starts being ready. So it'll be interesting to see what happens then. So, but there's lots of people signed up as volunteers that want to pick fruit. So that's great. I think the list is up to about 45 people. So that's a lot of volunteers. Maybe one of them wants to take on the continuation of the program past when the summer student is. So, and yeah, no, things keep plugging away and it's all good. So,
great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. So I don't see that Erica's with us today for East West Coast and Coastal Agriculture Roundtable. Does anybody have anything or know of anything to report from that committee?
I know that Tofino Community Food Initiative just did 2 edible garden tours on the coast. They're still they've got lots of volunteer stuff happening at their school garden. So lots of good work happening out there, and they're a great organization to contact. In terms of the roundtable, I know that I believe that myself and Amy will be looking at that table in the coming couple of months and making sure that it kind of gets a bit strengthened. Things have sort of slacked off in the last year or so, and that's been changing. And personally, just kind of being part of the initiation of that whole table, it means a lot to me that it continues and that there's a strong network on the coast. So I know that that's in our sights, and we can just update as that work goes on.
Thanks, Heather. Nuu-chah-nulth Tribal Council, Jen, do you have anything to report?
Well, I think that, for the Ag Committee, then the piece that's ongoing is the Food and Nutrition Sovereignty Network is continuing to meet. So we have monthly meetings with all of the nations are invited. And one of the conversations that we're starting to have at the moment is just around traditional foods conference that we're starting to move towards. I wanted to thank Heather for forwarding and sharing some of the upcoming funding opportunities that are available through the Ministry of Agriculture, and we're starting to have those conversations as well. And part of our planning is actually around for the Traditional Foods Conference is with the support of the ACRD, and some of the funding that moved towards is being held by Nuu-chah-nulth Tribal Council at the moment. So we're working towards an April event coming up in person and being situated here in the Alberni Valley. And we're just in the process now of starting that planning around what that will look like and what the framework is going to be and how what the structure for that, what that event will be. We're also looking at that event being open to more than just Nuu-chah-nulth territory. So we're looking at the Vancouver Island being a part of that particular event as well. So it should be very exciting. There's lots of really great work going on. And of course, all of the communities have that same interest that you're talking about, Elaine. And so, the Indigenous food sovereignty focus, looking at sustainable food systems within each of the communities are real priorities at the moment. I would say that one of the areas that's just starting to come forward for some communities is wanting to take a look at having a comprehensive community food, sustainable food and Indigenous food sovereignty plan for each community. And we're connecting that back to emergency planning for some of the rural and remote communities. And so I think that, there's, and thinking about that in the longer term. So communities are wanting to build capacity for being able to produce and access the foods that are being produced in their area as a part of their emergency planning for their communities, because communities are finding that they're cut off from the normal supply chains, and they're wanting to build some of their community resilience by taking a look at how they can build capacity to do food production locally. That's my update.
Thanks, Jen. I don't believe Victoria's with us today, as is anybody representing the Spirit Square market. And the Doc Plus has part of their report is on the agenda.
I can speak to that if you like, Anne.
Okay.
Cecilia knew she wasn't going to be able to be here, and she's actually got an ongoing recurring meeting that conflicts with this one, and the other one is like super important. So she said if we're open to changing the time of this meeting, then she could look at attending, but otherwise she'll send her updates through me and just like add them to the agenda. And then if anyone has any questions, I can take them back to her. But she wanted everyone to know that the kitchen is open to new memberships, and they are looking for ways to forge those partnerships with community groups for instructional classes. So they've done some work with the city for the fall leisure guide opportunities again, and they've had that at least one cycle. They had it for the summer. I think they had it back even into the spring. But if anyone has any community groups, or if First Nations wanted to work with them to do traditional food skill workshops or anything like that, then she's trying to get the word out about this awesome facility that we have in town, and like to see it used a lot of good uptake on it. And then there was a question from the last meeting regarding meat labeler, if they had one or not, or if they would have capacity to get one. And this is her reply, that they do have a jar labeler, but it's not the most efficient. Hubs usually end up doing it by hand anyway. Anything that they put in for grant applications that's deemed to increase efficiency, which the labelers are, is generally not chosen over those pieces of equipment or processes that increase production. So increase of production kind of trumps increases in efficiency, which labelers are. But if it ever comes up again, then there might be capacity to find out what is required on meat labels to ensure that all the information is there from an inspector point of view or from the government point of view to ensure that it can be distributed. And you can do it. It sounds like they're doing it by hand, or kind of everyone's doing their own, but just making sure the information, like the standard information, is included on the label. So.
Great.
If anyone has any questions about that, or they want to contact her, I have Cecilia's, like if you want me to do an introduction between the people for workshops that you're interested in doing, I can certainly do that. Or Cecilia is great and she's super approachable and very passionate about what they're doing there. So. Heather?
I wanted to pop back to the Spirit Square Farmers Market, actually, because a couple of things that I know, I'm not the rep, but one thing that I know they're doing is the Hatch and Harvest. And I hope we didn't talk about this last month, but basically it's sponsored by the BC Farmers Market Association, and they're inviting new kind of startups to come and have a free booth at the weekly markets, and they do a lot of promo. That's actually been going really well. There was a flower farm there last week who did really well. They were really happy, and it looks like they're going to continue to go to the market. So just really great opportunity for new producers or processors. If anyone's interested, you could get the free booth. And then the other thing which I saw recently, which I loved, and again, it's a crossover between ag and health. Things are happening. I can't remember exactly where I saw it, but it was an official notice from the Ministry of Agriculture, something about they actually will be or are looking to fund or funnel funding into the farmers market coupon program directly. So that's amazing. That has always been funded from Ministry of Health. And if the Ministry of Agriculture starts funding that program as well, we'll just have more coupons. And we know that the coupon program really works to increase sales and consumption of local foods at the markets. So that I thought was awesome.
You know, it'd be really cool is if the Ministry of Ag actually put that money towards the producers to grow things specifically for the farmers market coupon program, or for some of the organizations that are local that do that incredible like direct services. That would be even better than just the coupons. And just on that note, I want to switch over because I did finally hear back from Island Health. So we will not be doing any meat packages for people that have the coupon that are accessing the coupons through Island Health, because they just felt it was going to be too much of a kerfuffle to get that organized and do, and they don't have freezers and blah, 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 blah. So Jenna and I, before the end of the month, we're we're going to finish up our community services directory, and then we will be distributing all the meat that's down at the Doc Plus to those larger organizations, because it does not sound like the making up individual meat packs. It sounds like that's a no-go. So, but I do just think it's pretty important to note that, you know, the thing about the labeler, a labeler is like $200, and the Doc Plus probably has one. It's just that it wasn't done within the specifics of that meat processing program, which I think is a huge oversight, because federally you have to label meat when you process it. Like it's law. So if it's going to be sold or distributed like that. So I just think it's not so much the Doc Plus not having a labeler, it's a fact that it wasn't a component within that course. I think it's just an oversight. So just to emphasize that. Yeah, but hopefully that meat gets out by the end of the month. We'll see. I don't know. Thinking about being in a walk-in freezer sounds freaking awesome, like this afternoon. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
just say, Heather, I'm glad to hear this. You know, I think for myself, I always think that the best way to go with the farmers market coupons is to very much open it up to everyone to be able to purchase coupons for themselves, for giving gifts, you know, of coupons, just to, you know, stop the stigma around the coupons that are only for vulnerable, you know, identified families. I think it just would be so wonderful to just have, you know, more coupons purchased by everyone. So yeah, glad to hear that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where can I get information about these coupons? Like, is there a site that I can go to? And second thing is, Anna, have we told the school, I think it's North Island, that did the processing program that was missing? Like, have we relayed that directly to them to include that when they do it again?
I requested that at our last meeting, so.
Cool. And the
And
coupons?
also, I believe it went into the report that the ACRD submitted, which was a while back.
Probably not, because we didn't know the meat wasn't labeled until we did the photo op last month.
Okay.
Because the assumption was that all the meat was labeled at that point.
Mhm.
I can't remember the timing. I know it was communicated through some emails to staff anyways, but yeah.
I can look into that and make sure that loop is closed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Helen, for your question about how to get information about the farmers market coupon program, it's Island Health. Public Health has kind of a contract with them to provide coupons to prenatal and postnatal families that are requiring extra support for different reasons, but food insecurity, you know, insecurity being one of them. And there's also coupons that go to the seniors groups as well. But yeah, and the Friendship Center also gets some coupons as well. So it's quite limited in terms of who gets the coupons right now.
You were saying you'd like the general public to be able to buy them. Is that different, or?
That it's not really happening right now. I mean, what we've done, and Anna and I, we worked on the Food RX program where we actually went directly to the farmers market farmers market coupons and provided funds through our grant to get coupons to give to the families that we were providing the food box to. But you know, it's an extra step you need to take. You can't just go and buy coupons for yourself. Yeah. But, you know, back east in Ontario, they have totally taken away the stigma around this and they open it to everyone. And I just hope that BC can follow suit at some point. Yeah.
I
Thanks,
think in the
Queen.
past you were able to buy coupons for like for raffles and stuff, but I don't know. The program seems like it changes a bit every year. And the other thing, just Anna, oh my gosh, we ask like the Ministry of Agriculture, like, yes, fund the organizations, fund the producers to produce food. I think the reason they're just funding this coupon program is because it's easy and they don't have to think about it. And there's no negotiations around like, oh, well, but which producers and how, and like all of that. So yeah, more work to be done, but I still think good thing, at least they're, yeah, participating and probably saving themselves a lot of headache. And yes, they still need to just fund the organizations and producers.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the producers update. There you go, Tanya, it's your turn. Shannon Farms.
Okay, I've got a little list here. I was just going to start off with the farm right now. We talked about drought and everything like that. It took us a few rounds to get all our silage done this year. Which normally doesn't happen. When we normally get it done right after May, and it takes about a good week to get our farm done for feed for silage for the winter, and then we rotate the cows around or save fields for hay. So our hay, we've done a fraction of what we usually can. So we've already ordered a load of hay in, and I believe we've got 4 or 5 more B trains coming just because we haven't been able to make it ourselves this year. We have misters in the barn going for the cows. I just saw all of them go by the window that were out in the field. They're heading in for the day just before it gets too hot. So they'll be under the misters in the shade. On the cabin end of the tourism part of the farm, we've definitely been hit by the highway and the fire. June was rather slow. We've got a handful of cancellations or guests trying to negotiate lower rates for the inconvenience of them coming here due to the highway, which is interesting. So just navigating that has been interesting. And I mean, it's not the summer we had last year. And I mean, I'm sure, and everybody else in the tourism sector in town and on the West Coast is, I'm sure, dealing with the same things we are. And I mean, we only have one cabin. I can't imagine what the bigger places are doing. And then my next item I have is we're running a market on the farm on Tuesday, August 29th in the evening from 5 to 8 p.m. And I've got about 20 plus vendors coming to that one. My goal for our markets, because we're on the farm, is to always try and keep it agriculture or food focused with some artisans. So I have turned some people away that are kind of in like an epicure Tupperware where it's I don't know what you call those businesses, but where they've got people doing it for them. I'm really trying to keep it handmade, local, that sense. So I'm excited for that. I've kept a little bit of space open if a few more producers trickle in. I haven't heard much from people other than if I reach out to them and invite them, that's where I've had more uptick. Invites going out through this committee. I haven't had any responses from anyone, and that's okay. We do the summer one as a bigger market because we can use one of the fields for parking. Otherwise, our markets have to be pretty small because we're limited that way. Because if the fields are wet and people are driving in there, the boys will kill me for all the ruts in the field that need to be fixed in the springtime. We did a gather and graze dinner event in July that we tried that for the first time this year, and that went over really well. I didn't really advertise for it because I didn't need to with the amount of people that just reached out almost instantly. So the whole purpose of the dinner was we wanted to do something that promoted local agriculture, local seafood. So we had oysters from Casanova Seafoods that were inspected through Fleur Smokery, and Effingham oysters, and then salmon through Fleur Smokery, and then local beef, pork, and produce. We looked at our menu. We figured we had about 90% of the menu came from within the Alberni Valley or down the Canal Barkley Sound. And we had a cook. We had Antidote Distilling in to do bar service, who like they're making their gin locally too and their products. So the whole idea was to promote agriculture, but also in the sense that we were buying everything at a fair price. We didn't ask anybody to donate anything. We paid for all the ingredients. We paid like a fair price to the people that helped work the event. And then we had printed a menu on seed paper so you could rip it up and plant it when you were done. And I created a document for everybody to take home of where we sourced what ingredients for the dinner, so they could then find the ingredients that we did for the dinner. We had it for 48 people and we sold out about a month before it happened. And we're planning on doing it again next year. For sure, one Saturday night, maybe add a Friday night if it sells out again. But we wouldn't go beyond that, just because while we're happily growing our little agritourism over at the cabin, it's got to be sustainable because I'm the one running it. The boys are busy with the farms. So we're not, because we had people go, are you going to do a bunch more? And it's like, no, not at this point. So it was really fun to see the response to that. And even just now, like the ripple effect from it. Like I took the kids out to Coleman Meadows Farm because they don't see enough cows. We had to go see other ones on another farm, and the water buffalo. But I was talking to Jennifer Dyson, and she said she had people stop by their farm market and say, oh, we were at this dinner and then they had your cheese there. And she said, she goes, I heard great things. So it's just neat to see how it's kind of moving out around the community. So it was a lot of fun. And like I said, we'll do it again. I think it should be easier next time. There was a lot of learning and navigating. I think the most work on my end was, we had to be prepared with our menu for what we could ask for producers for at the time of year. But I personally found the most work was trying to get the permit through VHA to host a dinner on the farm. That was quite the process. And we're talking about making things easier for people to do stuff. That might be one of them. But it went great. And so, like I said, we're happy to do it again. And then the last item I have on my list, and then I'll take any questions, is not farm related, but I helped coordinate with Erica Blake from DFO and Mike Grandbois from BC Parks, the Rivers Day event at Beaver Creek Hall / Stamp Falls Park. So that's happening again this year for the second year. It's a free family community event on September 24th. It's a Sunday from 10 to 3. And invites should be going out to the ACRD, the city, the school district. We've got a list of people that the posters will be sent out to. And the idea of the event is to learn about salmon, watersheds, how everything's related. And there's a number of different First Nations groups that have been invited, local government groups, Wild Safe BC. I think we're seeing if there's somebody here this year, there wasn't last year, like fisheries, conservation officers. It was a lot of fun last year. We had a fish dissection table. Darren Olson ran that for the duration of the time, and my son didn't leave his side because he was in there like a dirty shirt. But yeah, so we're doing that again, and just so everybody's got that in their ear, that's going to be coming up at the end of the month. If anybody has any questions. Anna.
Do you have your poster ready?
Yes.
Well, do you want me to get my summer student when they're doing all the family farm day ones to put 2 sets up?
Of the Rivers Day posters?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that'll save you a few hours.
That'd be great. I will, I'll send you the 8x11.5 and the 11x17 PDFs, and you can print them however you want.
All righty.
Perfect. Thanks, Anna.
I'll give you a list of where they got distributed.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Otherwise, that's all I got for you.
Thanks, Tanya. So the only other producer I see that's at the table today is Eden Tree Farm. Heather, do you have something you would like to report on?
Actually, yeah, my big thing is that I actually had some legal chickens for sale this year. So I drove my chickens out to Cedar to get slaughtered at the new Farmgate Plus license down there. It's a total pain in the butt and very challenging. But actually, I'm curious if anyone else produced chicken and sold it in town this year. I don't even know if Bob Haynes had chicken or anyone. Like, were my 26 chickens that were left over after I sold a bunch live because I thought I wouldn't be able to slaughter them legally. Like, I mean, it's sad if we had 26 legal chickens available in the valley. But anyways, that's my news. I sold them for $7.50 a pound, the ones that I had pre-sold. And actually, after traveling to Cedar and doing all that, I actually raised the price. So I had 6 left that I brought to the farmer's market, and they were $8.50 a pound, and they were sold easily. So yeah, just that's a little chicken report. Things are tough in chicken
No
world.
kidding. Chicken world.
And for the public, because yeah. And the Mistral Green, these are also very, very specialty birds. And yeah, maybe potentially some sad news because the breeder has actually gotten out of the business, and she sold the rights to produce these birds to another farmer who is in Cherryville, which is very far away. And it's also a new farmer. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with these really wonderful Mistral Green birds. But anyways, that's my chicken story.
Thanks, Heather. Okay, so we just need a motion to accept the reports for information purposes, please.
I'll make a motion.
Helen. Can I get my trusty seconder on this again? Is he still here?
Fred's gone.
No, you gotta go.
Oh,
Need someone else to step up, Tanya?
I can second.
okay,
Hannah?
thank you. Nobody's opposed. The motion is passed. Is there any late business? I know we're running out of time here. Hearing no late business, question period. Do we have any more comments, or have we discussed ourselves out?
That'll be from, so the question period, Kristen will be monitoring. We have a special email
Right,
address
okay.
that if a member of the public is watching, they can't weigh in. They're just watching the live stream, so they
Yes.
can't speak to us, right? So if they have a question, they can email it. It tells them to email to responses@acrd.bc.ca. And then Kristen can pop on at this stage in every meeting and just let us know if
Okay.
someone has, if they have a question or anything, and we can answer it. Kristen, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. So there are no emails and there's nothing in the Q&A section. So we're good on that.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. I'll remember that for the next meeting. All right, hearing nothing else, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn. Do I
I'll
have a
make a
seconder?
motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Nobody wants to leave?
Tanya.
Tanya? Thank you, Tanya.
Ellen, I couldn't find the mute button fast enough.
Hopefully I get back on my laptop so I can see you people properly. Okay, thank you very much. Look
Thank you,
forward to
everyone.
seeing you again in October.
Have a
Thank
good
And at the
you.
fair.
back to
and at the
school time,
fair.
everyone.
And a Family
Adios.
Farms Day.
And
Yeah.
farm days, yeah.
For sure.
Thank you.
See you.
Yeah.
Hi.
See ya.